Hi, everybody. What's up? You're watching The Sit Down. I'm DJ Sixsmith. Tamara Bass here with us. If not now, when? Her brand new movie.
Yes.
Tamara, really nice to meet you. How are you?
Nice to meet you. I'm great. Right now, currently in lovely Toronto.
I mean, the journey of an actor and director is a really interesting one. And this film, it looks awesome. I talked to Meagan Good last week and we got into the whole thing. And you and her have been friends for a long time. So,
Mhm.
what did it mean to you to be an actor in this film and also direct a really powerful film that goes into a lot of places that, let's be honest, movies with Black women just haven't gone in the past? So, what did that mean to you?
It was one of the reasons I wrote it. One of the reasons I wrote the movie was because we don't get enough of these stories, and we don't get enough of these stories that address issues that touch all women, no matter what your socioeconomic background is, no matter what your ethnicity is. But I wanted to write one that's centered around Black women. So getting to not only write it, but see it actually come to fruition is, I feel like it's a shift in the narrative, and it's allowing me now to then open more doors to say, hey, this works. Look at how the public is responding to it. Hopefully it allows us to make more like that.
And the narrative is such an important thing because you have the opportunity to control the narrative. You write the
Yeah.
movie, you direct the movie, you act in the movie.
Mhm.
That wasn't always the case in Hollywood. So, what was the coolest part of just being able to be on the controls for all those things?
The coolest part, besides like actually like seeing my name like on the call sheet with all of those titles, was getting to do it with one of my best friends that I've had for 23 years, and looking at the two of us, two young Black women, young in relative terms, Black women getting to call the shots, getting to say yes or no when the decisions are made. It was final between us, and that was something rewarding, because even right under us, our second in command was another Black woman, Joyce Washington. So getting to look at the three of us were solely responsible for this movie coming to the screen the way it did. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of being able to be a part of that shift.
No question about it. It's not just Black women in front of the camera, it's also behind the camera. And
Hmm.
it's all generations too. Like even Lexi Underwood in this movie, she's somebody that
Hmm.
people recognized. And Megan told this amazing story that Lexi noticed something on set and she told you and then she went over to Megan and give a suggestion. Like that was awesome. What was that moment like for you to witness and experience?
It was amazing. So we cast Lexi before Little Fires Everywhere. Really funny story. I actually told Lexi's mom about Little Fires Everywhere
Oh
when I
wow.
when I read that Kerry Washington and Reese Witherspoon had optioned a book. I didn't even know which character which was playing. I just remember hitting Stephanie like, whenever this movie comes, whenever this show comes, Lexi has to audition for Carrie's daughter. She has to,
Wow.
and the rest is history. But Lexi told us in the beginning that she wants to direct. So us, it's an each one teach one situation. We told her, whatever days you're not working, if you don't have any auditions, you can come to set and shadow us. As long as your mom is okay with that, come. So one day we're shooting, and it was a late shoot, and she was the last scene up. And I was like, oh my God, I felt so bad. So she comes downstairs and she's like, Miss Tamara. And I'm like, yes. I was like, are you sleepy? I'm so sorry. She was like, no, no. She was like, is it okay if I sit and I shadow with you? And I was like, of course. So I gave her the reins. I said, okay, on this next take, you yell cut, you yell action, and we're going to take it from there. And I didn't tell Megan nor Valerie Pettiford, who is simply amazing, Valerie Pettiford, that she was going to do it. So she yells action, and I could see on their face, like in the monitor, they're taking it back for a second. And like, oh my gosh. So we watched the scene, and I look at Lexi and I'm like, do you have any notes? Because I had notes. And I was like, do you have any notes? And she was like, yeah. And she runs to give the notes, and she never tells me what they are. So I'm listening through my monitor, and she gives the exact note that I would have given. And I could see like she formulates it in this, 15-year-old way. And what I loved was, you have Megan and then you have Valerie, who is the next generation, and they poured into her and they took her note, and she comes back and she yells action again. And it was empowering, because if we don't do that for this next generation, then who will? So
Yeah, I mean, for you in your life, that may be commonplace, but it takes a level of humility to be a director and say, "Yeah, go ahead, call action here." It takes a level of humility for Megan to do that as well, to be like, I'm going to receive what this 15-year-old said. So who were some of the people early on in your career that you learned a certain style from, or you just saw, you know what, this is a great way to do it. When I have that opportunity, I'm going to do it like this, or just do it my own way?
Oh my gosh. First and foremost, George Tillman is my favorite director. He is, from an actor standpoint, like I haven't gotten a chance to work with him yet. It's on my bucket list, but I've auditioned with him, I've tested with him, and he's so hands-on. And then watching his finished products, he always makes me feel something. He always figures out a way to find the humanity within the characters, and I take my cues off of him. And luckily, he's a mentor, he's a friend, he's someone that I could pick up the phone and say, George, I have questions about this, and he gives, like, he's likes it. So love George Tillman, like hands down. I aspire to be him. Gina Prince Bythewood is another one who, you know, Love and Basketball is still a timeless movie.
One of the all-time greats, right?
All-time great movies. And crazy, my favorite movie besides Love Jones is Eve's Bayou. And it just happens to star Meagan. And Casey Lemons, what she did with Eve's Bayou was she showed me a world that prior to that, Hollywood told me didn't exist. A world that is full with rich characters, you know, who aren't downtrodden, who aren't, you know, overcoming some great adversity, and they look like me. And it was a human story. And so when we did Urban World with our movie, I finally got to meet her and thank her, because I can honestly say I would not think that this career was possible and the stories that I want to tell were possible if I didn't see Eve's Bayou first. And then of course there's like greats that I've met along the way after that, but those three I can say I can thank for being here.
It's really important to have representation on screen, whether it's people writing the movie, people in the movie, because you can be watching and your movie could do that for somebody else down the road. And, you know, somebody I think of is John Singleton, who did that for so many people. So when you think about your time with him, I mean, what resonated with you the most? What stood out the most about him?
What's crazy is when I went to see Higher Learning when I was about to go to college. And I remember my little brother likes to remind me of this. I went to the movies and my brother went to see something else, but we went at the same time. So when we came out the theater, I was bawling. And he's like, why are you crying? And I was like, the movie affected me so much. And all I said to him was, I want to work with John Singleton. I want to work with John Singleton. And he was like, okay. And just, you know, he's little brother, 14. He's like, whatever, Tam, okay. Flash forward, you know, 5 years later, I'm on set with John Singleton. And in my auditions for Baby Boy, I remember the first time I met with John, when I finished, he was like, you're dope. And you don't even know that you're dope, which makes you doper. So I actually wrote that line into If Not Now When, between another character, just to like pay homage to him. And my next audition with him was like a few months later. I come in and I do it again. And he's like, great, I just wanted to see you do it again. You're hired. Like, I'm like, this is weird. But then when I noticed is during the rehearsal process, he's very collaborative. Like there's a scene in Baby Boy that was when my character comes and picks up my kid from Miss Juanita's house, and Taraji's character is there. And there's this like standoff between us, and like she just points to the tattoo. That wasn't written. So it was written where there were two separate scenes, but we did rehearsals. And in rehearsal, AJ and Taraji were like, oh my God, Tam, this is the idea we came up with. We're going to talk to John about it. What do you think? And I'm like, oh, I think it's dope. And we go and we tell John, and John's like, great, let's try it. We're going to do that. So that showed me that, you know, even though you're a director and you're a writer and you're a producer, it's a collaborative process. So if somebody that you've hired to collaborate with has an idea, it behooves you to listen, because it may be something that elevates the project. And to this day, people still are like, oh, that scene when Peanut comes in, like, we're like, oh, wow, if only you knew it was improv. So sadly, you know, I saw John maybe 3 months before he passed away. And it was the day Taraji got her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And we spent the day because it was like that. And she had a premiere that night. And he was just like, I can't wait to see your movie. I'm so proud of you. Like, you've done it. You're doing what you said you were going to do. I'm just proud of you. And then he passed away before we finished. So it's bittersweet, but I know the legacy that he left and the relationships that he built. Like, to this day, Taraji is still my big sister and a phone call away. AJ is still in my life and is a big sister and a phone call away. Like, that was the foundation that he built within us. So
Those are some great stories. Yeah. And even if that person isn't here anymore, you still have that connectivity to other people.
exactly.
You mentioned college. It's kind of like college too, right? You go to college with people, you're doing the theater thing of Loyola
Yep.
Marymount. You know, what are the biggest memories from your time in LA?
Oh my gosh, so many. Like, I met so many people in college that I'm still like either in connected with or we're circling back to work together. Like Deshaun Terry, who's on the morning show, we went to college together, and Deshaun was one of my in theater. They make you take a directing for theater class. He was like my first guinea pig. I had to direct him and our other friend Dana in this scene from Fences, and we used to like riff off of each other with monologues and like building. And so now to see him like killing it on the morning show and seeing that full circle moment, we look back and like, remember those days at Loyola Marymount? And I like posted this picture of us not too long ago on Instagram from when we went to like the NAACP Theater Awards. And it's hilarious because he's like, T, like, I can't believe like this is here. So it's like that. College is your foundation. It's your springboard. It's where you meet the connections that will push you for the rest of your life. So I mean, I know college isn't for everyone, but it was probably the best decision my 17-year-old self could have made.
So you've been making some pretty good decisions recently. There's this movie, Don't Waste Your Pretty, is your other movie coming out. The trailer just dropped. What can you tell everybody about that one?
Oh my gosh, it was one of the first productions up during quarantine, which COVID tests every other day. But other than that, it's a story about a group of friends, their trials and tribulations with love and career and figuring out, the ins and outs, and them leaning on each other. It's definitely in my wheelhouse of telling human stories with people that look like me. An amazing cast: Deborah Joy Winans, Carrie Hilson, Rhetoric Williams. It was a dream come true. We had so much fun. We shot it down in Atlanta. It's based on Demetria Lucas's book. And yeah, the trailer just dropped and I saw it like right before I started talking to you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have another movie. So it was the first time that I was hired by someone else to direct. And it felt good. It felt affirming. It felt like this is where I'm supposed to be. Like, I am a multifaceted. I'm not just an actor. I'm not just a director. I'm not just a writer. I'm all of those things. So, and then I built some great relationships. I'm currently up in Toronto right now on a movie that I wrote and I'm an executive producer on for Lifetime that also stars Deborah Joy Winans. So it's like this full circle. Like, I was like, we're now stuck together. We're like, we're joined forever. We have a pilot that we're pitching. Like, we're now stuck. So it's a great foundation.
Relationships are everything, and you realize it too. It can seem like this really big industry, but it's actually a lot smaller than you think. And once you're in the cycle, like, it's pretty crazy when stuff starts to hit, right?
It's so small. Like, even when I got Don't Waste Your Pretty, some of the cast was already cast, and Carrie Hilson was one of them that was already cast. And I was like, I've never met Carrie. How is this going to go? I picked up the phone and called Meagan, and I was like, I know that you worked with Carrie on Love by the 10th Date. Give me some insight. And so she gives me like this rundown of Carrie Hilson, and nothing but great things. She's sweet, and all of those things Meagan said were great. But that's the importance of relationships and the importance of carrying yourself a certain way, because you don't know who knows each other. You don't know, if that would have went left, it could have been a whole different thing. And Megan's like, well, no, she's not, blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't. Carrie left a good impression on Megan, who then left it with me. So then someone came to me later and was like, well, how was it working with Carrie Hilson? And I'm like, Carrie was a dream. So it's a pay it forward. Same with Deborah Joy. It was like, when I turned in this script for this movie, I was able to say to them, like, hey, I wrote this for Deborah Joy Winans and she's amazing. and they went and hired her, because you don't know the type of conversations that you're having or the type of relationships that you're building.
Yeah, it's what makes the world go round. And, looking ahead, Black History Month is coming up. And,
Yes.
I just want to ask you, what does that mean to you? Because it means a little different something to everybody. So what does Black History Month mean to you?
Black History Month is a way, I mean, I feel like, number one, it shouldn't just be a month. It should just be a part of our daily history lessons. When we learn about George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, we should learn about Fannie Lou Hamer and Booker T. Washington. It shouldn't be this separate thing. And where we, growing up, I'm happy that it's starting to evolve. But as a kid, it was a little disheartening, because all I knew was we were slaves. Abraham Lincoln saved us. Martin Luther King said he had a dream, and Rosa Parks said she doesn't want to sit on the back of the bus. And that was it. And it's not until I became an adult that I learned the different complexities, and I learned about people whose names weren't mentioned in those 28 days. So, I mean, it's bittersweet. I'm excited that the world gets to celebrate, or our country gets to celebrate us. But at the same time, I wish we didn't have to have a separate month to do it, because Black history is American history.
100% agree. It should just be every month. And listen, there is nuance and complexity to life, and we need to talk all about it. And same with your new movie. It's like, we're just going to lay it all out there. People who can't have kids, people who have a kid and they don't want to have a kid, people who are dealing with addiction. Like, we just need to air it out. And it's awesome that you made this movie. And I think now you're dope and you're doing it big. So Tamara, really nice to meet you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Nice to meet you as well.
And best of luck with everything going forward. All right.
Thank you.